like him or hate him, James Yeager brought a lot to the firearms community and a lot to the personal protection, as well as the kind of Minuteman militia community. For those of you that don't know where he was, or who he was, I'm sorry, he was a firearms trainer in Camden, Tennessee. He used to be a police officer. He did one tour as a contractor in Iraq, I believe. And he got fairly well known because he had a little bit of an abrasive, he had a lot of an abrasive personality. And a lot of trainers didn't like him, didn't like the way that he did things. And it was kind of a love-hate relationship. People seemed to either really enjoy him or they couldn't stand him. I never met the guy. I never trained with him. I never got a chance to get up there to tactical response while he was still alive. He did pass away last year from ALS, and so I never got a chance to do anything with him. But the one thing I will tell you is he always ended his videos. He had his YouTube channel, and he always ended his videos with a quote. And he said, your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends." And that one always kind of stuck with me. And it's one of the reasons why I never did taglines coming off of our videos, is because I never thought that any of my taglines were quite as good or quite as fitting. I always liked that one the best, and I certainly wasn't going to steal that from him. But it was a very, very good tagline because it made a lot of sense for us as kind of this whole Minuteman mentality, people that push back against the status quo, what the government wants us to do, what we don't feel like we should have to do, that we just want to live our lives and be left alone as a general rule. Our life, this is the whole difference, like Charlie Kirk says, between capitalism and socialism. In a capitalist society, you can have socialism. In a socialist society, you cannot have capitalism. So you're free to be a socialist in a capitalism setting. Anyways, I digress a little bit, but the point is that we are people that tend to push back, and we want to be left alone, and that's what we are pushing back against. Now, part of pushing back, it means having a certain level of preparedness. And again, we are not preppers, but we are homesteaders. And we do have that Minuteman mentality, right? For those of you that aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, right? Paul Revere, the whole Minuteman situation, the shot heard around the world, fired on Concord Bridge. These were men that they were Minutemen. They were supposed to be ready to warn people and to fight the British at a moment's notice. And that mentality still holds true today, and there's people that call themselves a modern Minuteman. And so the modern Minuteman should have certain characteristics. They should have fighting capabilities, ammunition, obviously, medical supplies, knowledge on use of those medical supplies, a plethora of different attributes, and a lot of stuff that we actually work on here on our farm, teaching people personal protection and self-defense. It's to become more competent and functional with your firearms. Now, this video specifically, we're going to talk about medical. Now, when we talk about medical, the reason I give you this long kind of preamble into this is because when we talk about medical, we have to just discuss what we're intending this medical to be for. There's a substantial difference between a soldier on the battlefield of Iraq and what they would possibly need versus what you might need in your truck kit. And so, a soldier in Afghanistan may be getting shot, blown up, etc. And so they need things to take care of the top three, right? Bleeding, breathing, airway. They need to be able to address those three issues because they don't necessarily need antibiotics. They're going to be able to get medevaced out and get to a Army hospital, surgical hospital within a time period that would be conducive to fighting the infection. Let's put it that way. Obviously, there's exceptions to that. That's a general rule. Okay, so we have medical supplies here on the farm. We have stuff that we need to take care of. Now, there's a lot of videos out there on building medical stuff. So let me just give you the disclaimer here. I'm not a medical professional. I had a lot of medical training when I was in the Army. Just being an officer, I had a substantial more, a combat arms officer. I had even more. And then I had the fortune of growing up with a dad who was a veterinarian. And then after being a veterinarian, I think he was a veterinarian for like 4 or 5 years, and he decided he wanted to be a doctor. So he went back to school, went to medical school and became a people doctor. So he got a lot of college. But the good thing about that is that I learned a lot about medical care and both of animals and of people growing up. So that's where I bring this knowledge to you. And with that being said, let's kind of dive in. So as like what the Macs say, right? This video starts right now. Let's jump into this. Okay, so you're going to basically have 3 levels of medical equipment on your property and on your persons. And so the video that I actually want to get into here is on kind of what I guess you'd call it like a level 3 or whatever kit. But let's just discuss the level 1 kit. your Band-Aid kit. Okay, now this, let's just be real. This is 90% of what you're gonna use in your daily life. This is our kit that has our Band-Aids, our gauze, a little bit of tape, tweezers for pulling out splinters, stuff like that we deal with here on the farm. This is the vast majority of what we get into. And this kit has been so well used, the hinges are wearing out on it. So, guys, these type of things are great. You can restock them. You can buy these kits for nothing. I mean, they're like $20 and they have all the stuff in them. And then when you're done with that, you can toss it or you can replenish it. However you decide to do it, I don't care. Bottom line is, this is the first one that you need. This is what has all the stuff in it that you're really going to use a lot. And it's not the sexy kit, but it's definitely the one that you have to have on your farm. This should take care of 90% of your issues. If this doesn't take care of 90% of your issues, then you've got some serious accident-prone problems. So this should address the vast majority of your problems, right? So again, Band-Aids, Neosporin, antiseptic, whatever, it's all in here. So look at one of these. Now, in your home, you may have a more substantial kit. Now, the purpose of this kit is to go beyond what this first aid kit was. So the first aid kit is to address things like, again, our 90% of our needs and the most common things that we're going to get into, because 90% of our needs, we can get into a box this size. Now, when we start looking at those other 10% of issues, let's just roll this into the 9% of that 10%. So to take care of 99% of issues, you'll take care of that with these two things, okay? So this next bag, this is a duffel bag that we just have stuff full of all sorts of medical supplies. And this one, you're gonna have, we've got things for more severe issues. I've even got nasopharyngeals in there. I've got needle decompression kits for chest cavity wounds. I've got lots of stuff in there. And some of this is a little bit overkill, absolutely, but it's certainly better to have it and not need it. So, but this kit, when I say 9% of the time, is because this kit carries things like a lot of gauze, splints, and ace bandages, stuff like that. And so those type of things are going to fall in there to that other kind of 9%. So between these two kits, we make up 99% of the first aid and medical issues that we are going to deal with on the farm or within our life or any spectrum thereof. I don't keep this bag in my truck. I do keep something similar to this in my truck, again, because we have 3 kids. But this big bag, this one stays here at the house and in our medicine cabinet, and it's just a way for me to grab a bag, go out and deal with an issue if a kid gets something pretty substantial. And this bag is to take care of issues or and that aren't requiring hospitalization, right? This bag takes care of issues until I can get them into an urgent care or whatever. But this is not, hey, I'm heading to the ER next. That's our next bag. So tier 1, tier 2, and then let's jump into tier 3. Our tier 3 bag, okay? So I've got several of these, and I've got bigger ones and smaller ones. I've got a big one that we have that goes down to the range with us again, and this is when I brief all my classes, and it's like, hey, if we open this bag, we've got a problem. Like, everybody stops, like, this bag does not get open for Band-Aids. So I've got several of these. You'll hear them called IFAKs, individual first aid kits, etc. It's a high level tier 3 whatever trauma kit, right? This is a trauma kit. This is a relatively small one. Like I said, I've got a bigger one that I keep in my personal truck, and that has a little bit more Band-Aids and stuff like what we talked about was in that first box. And it has some of that stuff in there, so that way I've got it, because again, that's what I'm using most of the time. But this one is one that I keep on my vehicle for all my work vehicles. So I'm getting a different work vehicle, I toss this in, and I've all of a sudden got a first aid kit that allows me to deal with a plethora of issues in a disaster. And what kind of disaster am I talking about? I'm talking about things like multiple car pileups, severe accidents. In one case, actually, I'll get into this here in just a second, but actually ran across an overdose on the side of the road. And so trying to deal with that, this is where this bag comes into play. Now, I don't keep prescription drugs in here because, again, it stays in a work vehicle. And so if I was keeping it in my personal vehicle, I would probably look at seeing, like, go to Jace Medical. I'm not real worried about antibiotics, and this one that would go in my big kit at home because, again, antibiotics are not generally like this massive time-sensitive thing, right? We don't have to, like, get them in our system within, like, 3 hours. So it's not the same thing as dealing with bleeding, breathing, airway. What I would put in here is if I could get my hands on it, again with the prescription, is I would probably keep Narcan in here just to be able, and Narcan and an EpiPen, just to be able to deal with those issues on the off chance that you run across them. Okay, so now I'm gonna zoom in here, I'm gonna dive into this and let you guys see exactly what's in here. So we'll go ahead and open this up. I know this is a little bit longer video, just bear with me. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and dive in here now. Quick disclaimer, there are a few items in here that again should not necessarily be in a trauma kit, things like a thermometer, Neosporin, etc. We're not going to go into those. Those are things that really belong in the other kit, but again, this one goes back and forth between work vehicles, and so having a few band-aids and stuff like that for me to be able to deal with something and deal with things on me. Again, I'm not real worried about band-aids, but I do want to be able to take care of, like, so you know, some things where I cut myself and it's a substantial bleed, and I want to be able to get back to work. So I do keep some equipment in here to deal with that. The rest of this is for dealing with things that are a little bit more severe and a little bit more life-saving. Now, we have here a CPR mask. The reason I carry a CPR mask is because the issue that I was talking about earlier with a drug addict on the side of the road, when I pulled up to help, that drug addict was frothing at the mouth and their teeth were completely rotted out. Their mouth looked like well, I'm not even going to try to describe what it looked like. It was disgusting. And the thought of having to put my mouth up on that for CPR was awful. So I carry a CPR mask, and I keep one now in every first aid kit that we have. There's one in all of them. So definitely something that I would recommend you guys have. Now, moving on, we have the tourniquet. The tourniquet should ideally be on the outside of the kit. Again, this kit gets thrown around in work vehicles, so it does stay on the inside, but in my other ones, it is strapped to the outside. Being a quick access needed item, we certainly want to have that ready. Now, beyond that, we go into things like bandages, and you can see we got 2 different ace bandages in here. We've got lots of gauze. I've got the old-fashioned Israeli bandage, the compression bandage. It's the Israeli bandage, if you know what I'm talking about. It's the one that has a little crank on the top. This is the old-fashioned one that doesn't have the crank. And these are the old, like, military style ones that we used to train with in the Army, but that nobody actually ever issued. So having things to deal with substantial bleeding issues. This is like, these are substantial, not to the point of needing a tourniquet, obviously, but we do need to get some pressure on them. So having lots of gauze, having these bandages. There's also quick clot in here. Where's my quick clot at? I think it's here. Yep, there's some quick clot there. And actually, you can see there's a tampon in here. This is not for feminine hygiene use. This is for, you know, the idea of plugging like a bullet wound or a substantial puncture. Now, you can see we've got the needle decompressions. This is for dealing with sucking chest wounds and dealing with releasing depression there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, certainly check out some of the videos that are on. There's tons of videos on this. I think even my old channel has one on how to do a needle decompression on a sucking chest wound. Now, beyond that, we have things like, you can see we have a nasal pharyngeal. So this is an NPA. I've got some more quick clot gauze right here. But this is an NPA. So this is for you know, obstruction in the airway, getting past it. It goes right up the nose and down the throat. You can carry lubricant around, so I do have some Vaseline to like lubricate something like that. If you don't have room for Vaseline, you can always use spit. Works pretty well. So we have here we have some triple antibiotic ointment. Again, like what I was talking about, I just keep it in here because this does stay in my work vehicle, and I want to be able to take care of small issues. Same thing with the disinfectant. Blank on the name here, the alcohol pads. So stuff like that. So we keep all that around. The big thing here is the combat gauze. This has a anticoagulant in it. Or I'm sorry, not an anticoagulant, a coagulating agent, so a clotting agent, so the opposite of an anticoagulant. Anyways, so this has got a clotting agent in it that basically allows the blood to stop up. You put this on there, so it's the same thing as gauze, but it goes on with that clotting agent. And then you would come back over the top of it with, you know, one of these bandages. And if you still can't get it, you put more gauze on top and another bandage and keep wrapping it up. If that doesn't work at that point in time, we pop the tourniquet on. So these are kind of the basics. Down over here in this one, I have another CPR mask. Mostly because I forgot it was in there and didn't realize I had 2. Then I have some Small bandages over here. This is just the stuff for me to be able to get into. Again, guys, dealing with small, Band-Aids, etc. That I work with. Again, this one not designed for treating my kids and taking care of that stuff. This one's specifically designed for dealing with just what I'm dealing with at work, where I'm dealing with power tools and stuff like that, and I don't want to cut myself and end up not having anything to deal with the issue. So I know this is a kind of a pretty baseline kit. Again, this is a trauma kit, which the three issues we're trying to deal with is bleeding, breathing, airway, right? And so the goal of this kit is to get them to either A, the paramedics coming, or B, get them to the emergency room. This is not hey, we're going out into the woods trying to save lives for 5 days on end. So that's the idea of this kit. So, okay, guys, I really appreciate y'all watching. I hope that helps. Like I said, my goal here was to show you what a trauma kit should look like. And I know we didn't actually even get into the trauma kit till like 10 minutes into the video. So bear with me. The information is important. So it's a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but hopefully y'all found some value in that and enjoyed it. Other than that, guys, make sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And we will catch y'all later.